Thank you for joining us today. It is webinar number 21 in a series of webinars for small business, navigating the impacts of COVID-19. I'm Barbara Coffey, Director of Economic Initiatives for the City of Tucson. And today we have representatives from 3 city departments to share resources and programs pertinent to small business success. As always, we will take your questions and we'll get to as many of those as we can this afternoon. You can enter those in the chat box or the Q&A section, and we will offer those to our guest speakers and make sure that we get responses for you. We will keep everyone muted, all participants muted, since we do have a large number of attendees, and we will record the session and make it available for everyone tomorrow. You can find links to all our previous webinars at connecttucson.com, and we'll have this one posted there usually by afternoon tomorrow. So let's get started. First up, Kevin Burke, Deputy Director for the City of Tucson Office of Economic Initiatives. Kevin supports our economic development efforts and programs, which includes business attraction, business retention and expansion, and small business and entrepreneurial development. He works in collaboration with our regional partners, including Pima County, Sun Corridor, and the local business community. Born and raised in Tucson, he graduated from the University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, Washington, before earning a master's degree in city and regional planning from the University of Arizona. Prior to joining the City of Tucson team in 2019, Kevin's professional experience includes positions in state and local government management in Texas and Arizona. Kevin is a certified planner and has his AICP, American Institute of Certified Planners credential, but I don't hold that against him at all. Welcome, Kevin. Thanks for joining us today, and I'm glad that you are able to share your experiences with us. Kevin?
Good afternoon. Great to be here. And glad to be here on the 21st version of our webinar series, Barbara. It only took you 20 to ask me to join. So.
Saving the best for the latter part of our year here as we move through this crazy 2020. But I'm really glad because you've got some great stuff to share, a great program. So I'll just let you get to that.
Yeah, I'll dive right in. So the program that we want to share today is our new facade and sign grant program. We call it VIP, and that stands for the Visual Improvement Program. And what this is, like I mentioned, a side and facade grant program. It's a matching grant that we're able to provide to small business owners or property owners within certain geographical area, and I'll get into that in just a little bit, to provide a matching grant of up to $20,000 for improvements to real property. And what we're really trying to do is help the small businesses refresh their storefronts, add lighting, do new signage, and then make some pedestrian, landscaping, ADA type of improvements. They're going to make their businesses more visible and more attractive and help them attract new business, new customers, and generate some revenue. So with that, what I'd like to do is I'll share my screen. I'm going to jump into the city's website, show you the program documents that we've set up there. And then I have a brief example from one of our early applicants that I think is really a great way to visually demonstrate what we're hoping to accomplish through the program. So if we're ready, I'll go ahead and do that.
Great.
Okay. You're looking at my screen now, and what I've put up is hopefully a page that's very familiar to everyone here. This is the City of Tucson's Office of Economic Initiatives Connect Tucson website. And I wanted to start at the main page just to show you how we can navigate to and find information about the Visual Improvements Program. So if you're at connecttucson.com, we've actually included a link right here on the homepage. And also we've included the documents under support and incentives. And so if you go to support and incentives, you can find the Visual Improvement Program. I'll click on it right there. What we created for the VIP is a really simple initial online application. And I won't click on that link right now. What it is a small step-through application where really all the applicants need to provide up front is their contact information and a brief description of the type of project or the improvements that they're thinking about for their business or their property. That's enough to get us started. But let me talk in a little more detail about the program itself. So we call it, again, a facade and sign grant program, excuse me, because those are two of the key pieces of the building and the business that we want to try to impact through the program. So what we can provide is technical and financial assistance to get these improvements done. As I mentioned, the small business owner or the property owner will complete their online application. It comes directly to our team where we can conduct an initial evaluation and determine if the project or the property is going to be eligible. And then from there, it's really an iterative process. What we want to do is work with the business owner on the front end before they've applied for formal permits through the city's Planning and Development Services team to ensure that the improvements that they're interested in making are going to be eligible for reimbursement under the program. So we'll go through a process where we can first talk about the proposed improvements, and then what we'd like to do is work with your design professional. So if you're working with architects or landscape architects or engineering firms to put together renderings and site plans, again, before the formal permit submittal process, but just to help make these projects as good as we can and make sure that the business is going to be reimbursed for the maximum amount possible under the grant. Let's talk about some of those eligible improvements. And what we've done is put together this really brief sort of summary bullet point list. And so I'll go through them real quickly. Building improvements that are eligible for the VIP. Restoration of exterior details, specifically in buildings that are historically significant. We want to make sure that we're maintaining and preserving those to the extent possible. New storefront construction, and what we're thinking of here is if you would picture a typical strip mall that's been constructed in many places around Tucson, if we want to carve those spaces up a little bit differently to accommodate either new tenants or a different tenant mix than the way the building is currently configured, those types of improvements would be eligible expenditures. Awnings, canopies, lighting, which is something that I mentioned before. Good lighting, as many people know, is a real key, especially when we're talking about pedestrian visibility from the street. Window replacement and window framing, another piece that's really key if you're trying to attract people from the street, having a great window display. We have a lot of buildings, with aging glazing, and so updating that can be a real game changer for small businesses. And then I mentioned landscape improvements, and so things like new curbing and irrigation, some landscape features, but really what we want to focus on are the real property improvements, the building improvements. And so what we would consider is that we don't just want to do a landscaping project, but if there's landscaping component to your larger project, then we want to make sure that some of those are eligible for reimbursement as well. Speaking of eligibility, who is eligible? And so first, commercial property owners. So the property owners themselves are eligible for their buildings, and then those business tenants themselves. So small business owners in Tucson, provided that, of course, they have the written authorization from the owner of the property. And what we're really trying to do is impact those small and local businesses in Tucson. So this is what we mean when we say preference is going to be given to independent businesses. We're not obviously trying to help McDonald's make visual improvements to their programs. They've got their own franchise opportunities to make those types of improvements. What we want to do is work with the small and local business owners. And I mentioned before that we're working within a certain area. The funding for this program has been made available to us through the Department of Housing and Community Development's Community Development Block Grant Program. So it's the CDBG dollars that we're putting to work for this program. And as a result, the improvements, the grants need to be targeted to areas that benefit low and moderate income residents. So I'm going to click on the link here, which will pull up the map from Housing and Community Development. This is the CDBG Public Facilities Target Area. And I hope that this is legible over Zoom. This is essentially a map of the greater part of Tucson, and in the hatched area is the area that's generally going to be eligible for the grant. So this is not a neat and tidy boundary by any means. What we encourage folks to do is if you think you're probably in this area, and you're very interested in the program, go ahead and do the very short online application, and then we'll work with you to determine eligibility and to move forward under the project. Let me back out to the city's page. The last thing that I wanted to show you is just a flyer. It essentially contains much of the same information, but we are going to begin distributing these to businesses throughout the community over the next couple of weeks, trying to generate some interest in the business, in the visual improvement program for these businesses. But you can find, again, all of the information related to the program as well as the application on our website at connecttucson.com. And actually, if you use the short link, connecttucson.com/VIP, it'll take you right to the application. If I could, while we're here, I mentioned that I have some renderings from one of our early applicants. And so I'm going to pull those up right now so that we can get a better understanding of the type of improvements that we're really hoping to see come to fruition under the program. So this may be something that people are familiar with, a business that many people are familiar with. This is actually the original location of BK on South 12th Avenue. And the South 12th Avenue corridor is one of the specific areas that we're trying to target with the program. So we've been speaking with the owners of BK as well as their design consultants at Fours Architecture. They've been doing a ton of work well in advance actually of us creating this program. So they had some of these documents ready when we were ready to begin accepting applications. And they've graciously allowed us to share this with you because I think it's a really excellent example of the types of really impactful improvements that we want to be a part of. So if you're familiar with BKs right now, and if you're familiar with the South 12th corridor, it's lacking in pedestrian amenities, right? And we're attacking that in two different ways. Right now, the Department of Transportation and Mobility is completely revitalizing the streetscape along South 12th to create some of these great pedestrian amenities, to reconfigure parking, to create bicycle accessibility along that corridor. And what that's going to do for the businesses is create a whole new way for them to reach their customers. BK is getting ready to take advantage of that by redoing the front facade of their building and creating this really extensive outdoor dining scenario that you can see here. I think right now they don't have any outdoor dining, and so what they're proposing is a couple of hundred square feet of patio area that's going to be separated from the sidewalk with landscaping, new signage, and really, you know, from what they've proposed in these renderings, creating a really great and inviting outdoor space for people to enjoy everything that BK has to offer.
Okay.
So I'll just scroll through the, go ahead.
So I think we still have the website up and not the renderings. You might.
Oh no, okay.
Or either stop the share and pick a new share. I'm not sure. Try again. It's all right.
Let me, yeah, thank you for telling me because I was scrolling through those. So I stopped that share. Let me try just to share it again, okay?
Sounds good.
How about that?
Yeah, they're excited to see this. So
okay, I was talking all about it and no one could see it. So let me back up just a step. I mentioned that this is BK on South 12th Avenue corridor, and what they're really trying to do is capitalize on the public investment that the city is making currently in the pedestrian and bicyclist infrastructure, and they want to create a really inviting space for people. So currently BK, if you have been down there, they don't have any outdoor dining space. They've got an asphalt parking lot that goes right up to the curb. And so what they're proposing is an extensive patio, all new signage, and a new facade for their building, and they're going to be able to accommodate a lot of customers, both pedestrians, attracting both pedestrians, cyclists, and all other types of users onto the site. So I just think wanted to share this because this is a great example of the level of design that we're really hoping to see, not just along the South 12th corridor, but throughout the city. And an example of the types of improvements that really hit a lot of the marks for what we're hoping to achieve with the visual improvement program. Let me pull up one other, let's see, this is the site plan too. And so this is the nature of the types of documents that we'll expect from applicants as we go through the process. So this is not a development package, a full development package like one would submit to planning and development services for permitting. But this is essentially a draft of the similar type of document that we can review in conceptual form before you've applied for permits so that we can agree on what are going to be eligible expenditures under the program.
So there was a question, will they still be able to meet parking standards? So with some of these improvements, obviously you're taking into account current ordinances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And so through the visual improvement program, we're not waiving any code standards, development standards at all. You're going to have to work within the confines of the existing code. And so in this instance, BK, according to, or with what they have on site, they're actually overparked. And so for them, it's a matter of reconfiguring their space so that they can accommodate both what is code required for their minimum parking standards, as well as turn some of what is currently, asphalt paved over parking space into a really inviting space. I'll say that the city does have some other tools like the infill incentive district, where if you're in that type of area and need some relief from parking standards in order to make things like this work, that's exactly what we want to achieve as well.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And the timing is perfect, right? I mean, we've seen the need for outdoor dining space and, and a refresh on your business and your building at a time when you need to attract new customers and really get into recovering that business that may have been lost over the past few months. I think it's great timing. And so you're getting a lot of good comments about the program. So well done putting all of this together. Now, I will say, and maybe you can talk about this, funding, obviously we're rolling this out year one, funding is limited. So we're encouraging to reach out to you quickly. Is that right? What do you recommend?
Yes, act now. We are using a small allocation of CDBG dollars in this fiscal year. And we want to stretch it as far as possible. So we're accepting applications on a first come, first served basis. If you have a project that you've been thinking of and you weren't sure if you were going to be able to fund that project, the city's here to participate. And so we'd love to hear from you. I think I mentioned the online application to get started is really simple. It will take you less than 5 minutes. And so if you want to put your name in the queue, we are in all likelihood going to end up with a waiting list, but we will be having conversations with everyone that applies to see how we can accommodate you.
And I think that's a great problem to have, right? I love a waiting list because it means there's interest, that people want to move forward. And that also sends a signal to our, to not only management, but elected officials that they like the program. And in future years, we can garner more funding. So I think that we do encourage people to reach out. There's a question about, again, back to your BK project. You've inspired a lot of folks. When would that likely be complete? And that question of, how long is the process for applying? Sure. What does that look like? And let people know something to that effect.
Very good. So let me tackle that in two parts because they probably want to know when the BK patio is going to be open. As we all do. And so, that's a decision for the property owner and the business owner there. What we're trying to do is facilitate that process. Our application process leading up to the award of a contract for reimbursement under the Visual Improvement Program should take a matter of weeks. And then what comes after that process is the formal permit submittal and review through planning and development services. So what you saw from BK, those are conceptual renderings. Those aren't documents for plan review. You cannot get a permit by submitting those to the city. We're using those documents to have a discussion about what improvements are eligible for reimbursement under the program. Once we've come to an agreement on that, we'll enter into a formal contract between the city and the property owner, right? And then once they have that contract in hand, they're free to go and apply for and get their permits from planning and development services, which will be a timeline that we will help facilitate, but not one that we control.
That's fantastic. And I know that that it's a great program. I've seen it work in many places, and I think it'll be an opportunity to really help revitalize some areas and give that opportunity for that fresh look in our aging commercial corridors. And so I think having that street front presence is really critical in enhancing the image of the overall commercial district, and really helps to to create a sense of pride and ownership in the neighborhood. So I appreciate, thanks for the hard work. Thanks for sharing the program parameters, and we'll continue to take more questions. So we'll keep moving now. But again, if you have more questions on this topic or any of the ones from our speakers today, keep throwing those our way. So now I will take us over to Rolanda Mazica, Brownfields Coordinator for the City of Tucson's Environmental and General Services Department. For almost 20 years, Rolanda has worked on conservation programs at Tucson Water and in the Brownfield program with the Environmental and General Services Department to support community revitalization and redevelopment. Rolanda currently manages a $300,000 U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Brownfields grant to support redevelopment and community revitalization along Tucson's South 12th Avenue business corridor. And she's been instrumental in bringing additional Brownfields technical support in support of the Ronstadt redevelopment project. Rolanda is skilled in the art of collaboration, as all of our guests are today. You're going to hear about that, having promoted successful partnerships with the EPA, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, Pima County, environmental professionals, businesses, and community members alike. So with that, Rolanda, welcome, and it's fantastic to have you with us today. So thanks for joining. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Barbara. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'd love to share some information about our Brownfields program and the great work that we're doing in the Tucson community. And if you don't mind, I have a short PowerPoint to share with the visitors today.
Fantastic.
Okay. So the City of Tucson's Brownfields program has resources that are provided through the EPA's, the Environmental Protection Agency's Brownfields Redevelopment Grant Program. We provide this grant assistance to both property owners, small businesses, and nonprofits. So what are brownfields? I think that's a big question that we get asked a lot. A lot of people really quite aren't sure what those brownfields are. So the EPA's version, or the legal version, is kind of long, but just in short, it's properties that have the potential to have contamination. These properties can be difficult to develop because of this perceived contamination, and it can make the development of a property a little harder, might be more money, and people might be a little scared to approach those. Some of those contaminants that we see are hazardous substances, petroleum products, even things like asbestos and lead-based paint. And these contaminants do affect the air, the soil, and the water, and they can be toxic to human health and the environment. So I want to kind of share a couple of scenarios with you regarding a potential brownfields property, and kind of give you an idea of what we deal with. So say you are a business owner, you are looking for a new site to develop, you're really excited to find something, and you locate a property that's on the street corner. The property's vacant right now, and it's just perfect for you. You've got great exposure to your customers. You've got great access for them to come on and come visit you. And it just looks prime for your development. You're gonna go through your process of putting in your bid for the property. You're gonna shore up all your financing, and you're gonna start hiring your contractors and get ready to break ground. So if you do all this, there are some things to remember. Say you just start moving and you take out your shovels and you start digging and you find a tank. Well, now what? What do you do now? You have a tank on the property. You don't know what's in it. You don't know if it's leaked. You don't know even if you're responsible for it. And then now you're looking at more time to have to deal with the tank. And you're also having to probably put out a little bit more money in order to hire a consultant to figure out what's inside, whether it leaked, and to properly close that tank out according to the state rules and regulations. So it's really important that you think about these things while you're looking at these properties, and through the excitement of developing or investing in a property, you take the time to kind of do your due diligence. So our second scenario is you're the same person, you're gonna take a little step back, you're gonna hire an environmental professional, and you're gonna hire them to do what's called a phase 1 environmental site assessment. Phase 1 environmental site assessment is research into a property before you buy or you renovate or you redevelop. And that research is gonna go into what's happened at that property, what kind of operations were held on that property before, 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's also going to tell you if there are any environmental concerns that you might be worried about, or you might have to worry about. In this case, in our scenario, that property, that beautiful vacant piece of land that you're looking at, used to be a gas station years and years ago. And when the new property, or the seller that you're working with now, didn't realize when they bought it that there used to be a gas station there, and that gas station owner never took the tank out. So in scenario one, unfortunately, now you're on the hook to clean up that site. You have, without having done the proper due diligence, you are now responsible for taking that tank out. You're now responsible for any contamination that happens on that is a result of that tank leak. And now you're looking at more money, more time, and more delays in getting your business built. So I want to talk to you about what our Tucson Brownfields program does. Our Brownfields program is here to assist these business owners with conducting their environmental due diligence, and we do this for free. We have subject matter expertise in our team that kind of guide you through that process, can talk to you about the environmental conditions that might exist at your property, and kind of help you move through the development of that project. As you can see here, we do have different assessment activities that we offer, and we also have the costs and the average time it takes to complete. Sometimes when we're working with clients, they're worried about the time it takes to invest in proper due diligence. It really is worth the time to do this, and I encourage everybody that is looking into developing commercial property to invest this time, build it into your plan, because you can save yourselves thousands of dollars down the road when you start breaking ground. Typical phase one environmental site assessment consists of doing that historical research on the property back to when the property was first developed. And we provide all the information to you, the report you get, and the typical cost of those investigations are about $2,000 for an average size property. Now, say in this scenario that we did find there was a tank, a possible tank on the property. Generally what we're going to have is the environmental professional will probably recommend that you conduct a phase 2 environmental assessment. And that's also something that we can help with. These assessments can get a little costly just because you're doing sampling. You're actually going out, you're sampling the soil, you're looking at the conditions of the site, you're looking for any impacts from something from, if in this case, an underground storage tank, you might have had petroleum that spilled. You might have other constituents that are in the soil that might be, a little worrisome to develop around. We conduct this for free, and the same thing, kind of guide you through what your next steps might be. We do provide, if there are issues that are found on your property, we do provide assistance with doing a cleanup report to help guide you through any sort of remediation that you need. Now, I would say more than half the time, you're not going to encounter that. You might encounter a little bit of cleanup, but you're not going to encounter something on a large scale. But we have the resources there to help you. And as I mentioned, internally, we have the resources, our subject matter experts to help explain what all these reports and all the technical terms mean. For properties that are undergoing renovation, you might, and I would strongly encourage folks to look into asbestos and lead paint testing. For older properties, anything built, I would say even before 1990, there's a possibility that those buildings are going to contain asbestos or could contain lead-based paint. And we have the sampling available for free that can guide you, give you that information. And then when you're working with your contractor, you can let them know if there's any worries, any environmental worries they might have when they're doing those renovations for you. So I wanted to share some Brownfields successes that we've had over the years. Our Brownfields program has been with the city for almost 2 decades. So it's a very long, successful program. And this first site is the Marist College, located downtown. It's a historic building. It was redeveloped into affordable housing for elderly and disabled residents. And it's just a beautiful property that has been redeveloped. And if you have a chance, it's a great place to walk by and take a look at. The second one is the Cadence, which if you've come downtown off of Congress Street, you'll see the building. It is a multifamily mixed use student housing, you know, there's restaurants there. It was located on top of the former Greyhound bus station. So when we went out and started doing our environmental work, we did find an underground storage tank, and you know, we were able to help them get through that process and get everything moving so that way they could move on with this development. We also do work with projects like community gardens. It's very important for us that when a garden is being proposed or being looked at, that, you know, you're going to be digging in the dirt. It's smart just to do that assessment. And, you know, we have the resources and the funding available to help get that process started on the right foot. And this last picture here is a local small business, Cirrus Design. It's located north of downtown Tucson. And you might recognize the building outlines as being a former auto shop. So that's a pretty neat project just north of the downtown area. So we do have a very strong and collaborative Brownfields community in the state of Arizona. A lot of times, if we're not able to help or you're outside of the city boundaries, there are other programs available that might be able to provide some assistance. Those include Pima County, South Tucson, the Tohono O'odham Nation. There's also a state Brownfields program. And then we have partners both in EPA's Region 9 and with the technical assistance to Brownfields provider, which is CClear. Our current Brownfields opportunities are focused, kind of dovetailing into what Kevin presented earlier. They are focused along the South 12th Avenue corridor in La Dose. We're looking for opportunities to assist businesses all along through that like 2.5 mile corridor between Julian Wash Park on the north side down to Mission Manor Park on the south side, and then also along the east-west corridors on Ajo, Irvington, Nebraska, and Drexel. So we are very, very interested in hearing of anybody who needs assessment assistance in this area, and you know, we hope you will consider our program when you're ready for your project to move forward.
My lastly, had a vision of combining a graphic design studio with a commercial printing company, and that was in the late 90s. He started that business and I joined him in 1999. So we've been going 20 years strong, and really what's become a pretty good thought of combining these two businesses has really expanded into a business now where we still have fundamentally a commercial printing facility, but we also bring in graphic design and provide a lot of marketing services, both digital and then traditional through printing on paper. This building, I believe it was like 1945 it was built. It's been various iterations of an auto shop. There were lifts and, you know, hydraulic lifts and things like that with oil and drains and stuff. So we knew that there could be potential concerns with that. Also in this area, there's been a known plume, a contaminated plume underground, and that's due to what was a dry cleaner up north. That plume has been coming through, and so we didn't know if potentially the ground had been contaminated with that dry cleaning plume either.
Brownfield site is a property with known or suspected contamination. Usually it comes from historic uses like a gas station, dry cleaners. When a property transaction begins, that's when the city's Brownfields program is going to step in and offer to do assessment work for them. We're going to talk with the seller, we're going to talk with the property owner, we're going to talk with the proposed buyer, and just see what the property is looking to become and then what type of assessment work we can do for them. And so in this particular project, we were able to step in pretty early in the process and conduct the phase 1, conduct the phase 2 environmental site assessments, and that way they were able to proceed with the construction with confidence.
When I looked at this building, I thought it was more than we could bite off. The Brownfield program helped absorb that risk so that it was something that we could entertain, because the unknown of this site would have kept us from even trying. But because the Brownfield stepped in, the Brownfield grant stepped in, it allowed us the opportunity to at least give it a full due diligence and determine that it was something feasible. when we got the clearance, we knew it was really clean. We knew it was like, okay, we're safe. We know that this building is not contaminated. Air quality is good. Ground quality is good. We could put asphalt down on the parking lot and everything else. So it was kind of a relief at that level. I love old stuff, and I love the character and the charm that comes with old things, and this building with the brick and the concrete and the location. And as you walk around, there's so many little touches that are here that give it the character and the depth, and it makes us feel we're part of Tucson. It's part of what is Tucson, is that character. Fast forward a couple of years that we've been here, we love it. It's why we moved here. We do have great access to downtown. Our clients have a great place to meet. Our employees have a great place to be. They can walk to lunch. They can walk downtown and have a drink after work, things like that. So ultimately, yeah, it was absolutely worth it. The patience paid off. I think from an investment standpoint, it was really good also. And I think that, you know, if you find a building that has potential environmental concerns and you can partner with the city on it, then you have a little bit of like insurance, not formal insurance, but insurance that like if your building's deemed clean, it really is, and that helps a resale value that you can say, hey, we did this with the city, you know, that we've got clearance on this. So yeah, it was absolutely worth it.
That's awesome. I can see how, Rolanda, how proud you are of the successes and working with clients and companies to help make these, you know, dreams realize in their business. I think that's fantastic. So what a great testimony.
Oh, they, you know, Matt and Brandon at Cirrus are just amazing people to work with, and we were just very fortunate that we were able to help them along with their project. So we were just thankful to work with them to provide that. I did want to say, lastly, that we are, when it comes to our program, we don't have a formal application process. So if you are interested in finding out more, or you have a site that you're interested in, or you'd like to learn some more, just reach out to us, reach out to me in particular. You can take a look at our website, tucsonaz.gov/brownfields. You can email us at environmentalprograms@tucsonaz.gov. And we'd love if you would want to follow us at tucson-brownfields.program on LinkedIn.
Excellent. So there is a question, Rolanda, and I know Ellen Curtin is our SBDC lead here in Tucson. And so she works with a lot of businesses, and she asks, will lenders accept your environmental assessment reports?
Yes. Yes, we hire consultants to do the phase 1 and phase 2 reports. So all the work is done by environmental professionals. They do it according to ASTM standards, and it meets any requirements for lenders. We particularly are hoping to reach out to lenders, small business lenders, CDFIs, contractors, and real estate professionals and developers. Because if you have, for instance, a seller who's very motivated and is looking to do, is maybe considering doing a phase 1 on their part in order to show potential buyers, you know, the property, you know, if the property has any issues, or hopefully not, we can also assist with that. So there's multiple scenarios that we can help with the assessments. And it just takes that connection to find out whether or not we can help you with that project, with your projects.
That's awesome. And I think it's fantastic that there's funding available. I think a lot of people probably don't realize that they have this opportunity to work with the city during that due diligence time. So again, whether you're wanting to buy or sell, it's a good time to reach out to you all and ask those questions. That's great.
Yes. And it is fully funded. So there is no cost match. The assessments are completely free. Same with the phase 2 environmental site assessments, which, you know, they can be a little pricier. And those are fully funded through our program if you meet the eligibility criteria.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. I'll make sure, stick around. We may have more questions for you. But I love the information, and we're going to keep on rolling. So last up today, Assistant Chief Mike Carson has proudly served the Tucson Fire Department since 1998. He has been in the fire service since 1991. He currently serves as the Assistant Chief of Business Service and Community Risk Reduction. With the Business Services Bureau, his responsibilities include direct oversight of fire prevention, logistics, TC3, accreditation, as well as IT technology. He promoted through the ranks of firefighter, paramedic, captain, battalion chief, deputy chief before settling into his current role as assistant chief. Mike has served as adjunct faculty as well with Pima Community College since 2002. He's an instructor in the Public Safety and Emergency Services Institute, teaching strategy and tactics. He has served as a representative for the Fire and Life Safety section on the Program Planning Committee for Fire Rescue International since 2016. In addition, he serves on the Program Planning Committee for the Community Risk Reduction Leadership Conference sponsored by the IAFC. Mike is committed to reducing injuries, life loss, and property loss through focused attention on fire prevention and life safety initiatives. He's a strong supporter of the Tucson Fire Department's community risk reduction efforts. And that includes, as you've heard everybody before, a collaborative working relationship with not only TFD employees, but also all other City of Tucson departments and several community partners. So now, welcome, Mike, and thanks for spending part of your afternoon with us. I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes, and then we'll take some more questions. Mike?
Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you all and talk to you a little bit about the Tucson Fire Department, a little bit about some of the challenges that we've encountered during this COVID pandemic and how we've had to change some business practices, and then kind of highlight some of the great work that the men and women are doing on the Tucson Fire Department every day. So just a quick overview of the Tucson Fire Department. So the Tucson Fire Department is an all hazards response fire department. And what that means is, you know, a lot of people have a misconception as to what types of calls the fire department runs on. And the Tucson Fire Department runs on everything from, you know, building fires and medical emergencies and car accidents and trench rescue and hazardous materials calls. So a wide gamut of calls. So almost anything that you can imagine, we respond on that type of an emergency. So you can assure that if you call 911 and need the Tucson Fire Department, that we're going to respond quickly and efficiently. The Tucson Fire Department has 22 different fire stations that are really strategically located throughout the city of Tucson to really ensure a fast response with the appropriate resources for the emergency that we may have to respond to. The Tucson Fire Department is continuing to be innovative and be on the cutting edge in terms of training and our programs, and we really value that, and we're really proud of all the great work that the men and women are doing on the Tucson Fire Department. One thing that I would like to highlight that is directly related to the community members and some of the businesses is in late 2018, we began working on our 2019 through 2024 strategic plan. And we really wanted the members of the community and the business owners to kind of have a piece in that strategic plan. And when we worked through that process, you know, we brought 35 different community members and business owners into our strategic planning process, working with members of the Tucson Fire Department hand in hand. And we're proud that the community has had a direct impact on that plan as we move forward. And is really shaping what they expect of their Tucson Fire Department. So that was a great experience for us, and we're looking forward to sharing those outcomes with the community. The COVID pandemic has really forced us to be flexible and adaptable, you know, as we work day to day. And I really got to, you know, give a shout out to our fire chief, Chuck Ryan, and the leadership team and all the men and women who have been adaptive and have had to like change on the fly from probably our normal business practices. You know, there's been great work right from the beginning with our safety division, our medical division, our medical director, Dr. Josh Gaither, to really assure that our men and women were outfitted correctly with the PPE that they needed during the pandemic. So as you can imagine, the men and women that are out there on the front lines every day, they face a variety of challenges. But when COVID came in there, that was an added challenge that they had to adapt to, and they've done an outstanding job with that. Another area I'd like to highlight is the Tucson Fire Department's Class 1 ISO rating. And some business owners may be aware of that, but in May of 2017, the Tucson Fire Department was notified that they received an Insurance Service Office's Class 1 rating. And what that means is when the ISO folks come in, they evaluate the fire department in 4 specific areas. One being emergency communications, one being the fire department as a whole, but they really look at where are the fire stations strategically located, where are your apparatus located, what are the training, what does training look like, and what type of things are you doing from a training perspective. They look at water supply, so we worked very closely with Tucson Water during that evaluation. And then finally is our community risk reduction efforts, which in the evaluation encompassed our fire prevention activities, our fire investigation activities, as well as our public outreach from a public safety and education standpoint. Fire department, in that ISO rating, departments are rated from an ISO Class 1 to an ISO 10, with 1 really being an exemplary fire department. And your Tucson Fire Department is proud to announce, and we announced it back in 2017, but just for those folks that don't know, we are a Class 1 department. And kind of to put that in perspective, ISO evaluates about 50,000 fire departments, and less than 1% of those receive a Class 1 rating. One thing I'd like to share is, that could have a very positive effect on the business community in that it could lower insurance premiums for the business owners. So I guess what I would recommend is for the business owners to maybe reach out to their insurance companies and have that conversation to see if that does have that effect. But it's something that we're extremely proud of and are going to continue to work hard to maintain as we move forward. Another thing I'd like to you had a question, Barbara?
I was just going to say that's a great piece of advice, and I love it. Again, what I love about the webinars is we get these nuggets of wisdom, and so there's one right there, that ISO rating. And be sure to check with your insurance providers to be sure they know that our Tucson Fire Department has that. So that's great. Now keep going.
All right. The next thing I'd like to kind of talk about is our business-friendly and common sense approach to fire and life safety inspections and some of the things that we've had to change from a business practice perspective. So our fire prevention division is often that division in the fire department that probably doesn't get the recognition that they probably well deserve, because they're not necessarily on the front lines doing some of that kind of work that gets all the attention. But the men and women in the fire prevention division, they're out there, inspecting buildings and working and collaborating with our business owners to assure that the buildings are safe, primarily for the residents and our visitors that are here in the Tucson community and spending time in those businesses, as well as the firefighters. So when we respond to a building fire and we know that our fire prevention team has been there, we can be assured that all their systems are operating correctly, right? The fire alarm system and the smoke alarms and the fire sprinkler system. So they do outstanding work. But one thing that we had to change for COVID was our inspection process, because obviously we're trying to eliminate social distance and not be directly having a lot of face time with the business owner. So what we've developed is what we call our SIP program, our self-inspection program. And what happens is our fire inspectors will contact the business owner, arrange a time and date when they can drop off this inspection form. And this form is relatively basic. It's not inclusive of all the various fire code requirements or violations. It's the things that we encounter most often when we're out there doing an inspection. And this allows the business owner to kind of take that responsibility on him or herself to go through this checklist and then work and collaborate and communicate with the inspector and allow the inspector to spend some time educating them if they find deficiencies on that inspection. Our approach is very business friendly with the Tucson Fire Department in regards to our inspection. So all of our inspectors know that, we want to educate first and then really work with the business owner to get them back in compliance and make sure that their place of business is safe for the residents and the visitors that come to Tucson. So that was a great program that was instituted during COVID. Another change we made is historically what would happen if a contractor had to do plans or drop off of plans for review, they would drive down here to Fire Central, drop them off, maybe have some dialogue with one of the fire plans reviewers or inspectors in our new construction unit. And what we've done now is we've gone completely electronic, which simply means that that contractor can submit their plans electronically, they can pay for their plans electronically, and also request that inspection electronically. So it's eliminated that, that face-to-face dialogue that we've had in the past. But our team is very responsive to those contractors, and those plans are being reviewed in a very, very timely manner. As we know, the construction and that is great in Tucson, and we want to keep those projects going and keep those businesses coming to Tucson. So really want to just give a shout out to the Fire Prevention Division. I'm super proud of the men and women down there and all the great work that they've been doing and how they've adapted during COVID to some of our business practices. Lastly, I just want to cover a little bit about our ongoing efforts to really engage and collaborate and communicate with the community and some of our various partners. I think probably most people have heard of our TC3 team, and since their inception in 2016, we've collaborated with over 100 different community partners and provided outreach. And what that program basically does is we're really trying to prevent 911 calls from some of our most vulnerable population and really get them directed and tied into the social services that we're going to serve them best. Meaning that maybe a 911 call or going to the emergency room wasn't always the best answer. And what we found through this collaboration and working with our community partners is, we've now connected these folks and got them some outstanding help they needed and got them out of the 911 system. And that program has been a really huge success. And another program I'd like to highlight is the great work being done by our life safety education team. And that's the team that goes out and works with the schools and the teachers and is providing life safety education to the community at various levels through our Circle of Life program, which really touches adolescents all the way to the elderly and the various programs and teachings that we can provide them to keep them safe. So, there's a lot of great work going on, and that's all under the auspice of our community risk reduction division that I oversee. And kind of a little saying that I have is if an event is truly predictable, then it's preventable. And I feel like if we can predict those emergencies that we're responding to, then we can work and collaborate with community partners and other entities to prevent those from ever occurring in the first place and really keeping this community much safer. So those are just a few highlights that I want to cover here about the Tucson Fire Department, and certainly glad to answer any questions if you have them, Barbara.
Thank you. And really, on behalf, I know, of everyone on the call today and watching today, we want to say thank you, right, to our first responders and to your entire team. We know that you have been out there on the front lines the last few months from day one of this pandemic, and you continue. And of course, I know that you say that's what you do, it's what you're there for, but we appreciate you. And so I want to make sure that is shared. I also, I saw a great video that Fire Chief Chuck Ryan shared on the memorial, the 19th anniversary of our 9/11 event, and it touched me, and I thought I would share a thought there. His comment was, how usually we talk about never forget, but he turns it to always remember, and so I thought I'd share that with our group today, and again, keeping all of those who were touched by the events of that day in our hearts and prayers. So with that, though, you've said some amazing things that I think businesses need to hear, which is how much you do support their success and in a preventative way. And so I was pleased to hear you share about the way you help businesses with their plans review and how you've pivoted to make it more efficient and to really continue to provide that kind of support even during this time. So just finally, what would you say lessons learned from the last maybe 6 months from a health or life safety perspective this period of time during COVID, are there some things that you can share based on having endured some of the fallout over what we've seen, or some nuggets of wisdom for businesses moving forward to help create that safe and a safe environment for them to receive customers again? What would you say?
But I think one of the most important things regarding the pandemic and what we've all been challenged with is really that we have to all remain adaptable and flexible, right? I think that was a big lesson for the fire department, and just how we're responding to this, because there was no template on how to deal with COVID and how to approach it, even from an emergency response perspective or a life safety perspective or code enforcement perspective. So we've really had to be adaptable and flexible. And I think that's important for the business owners as well, as they move through this and navigate these waters, that we're really working together. And because there's no specific way to deal with this, we have to rely on one another, the fire department communicating with the business owners and the residents and the visitors in the community. And, one way that we're going to get through this is working together. So I don't know if that's a golden nugget, but I think it's something that I'm going to remember moving forward in the event that we encounter this again or something similar. Is, we got to be flexible and adaptable in our day-to-day work.
I think that's great advice. And I think all of our businesses can resonate with that. They have absolutely had to be flexible too in everything that they do to really survive the last few months. So you had one, Nardia mentioned, as she is a home health nurse. She's experienced the programs that you talked about that have helped in the home and reducing emergency visits. So she says, thank you. And so I appreciate that. And make sure if you have other questions, you can ask them now, but you can also always follow up with any of us later. I know Fatima asked if there was funding available for improvement programs, and I think she might be going back to our visual improvement program in the county. And I think what I have to tell you is I know that our program that Kevin mentioned earlier is the City of Tucson program. So at this time, I'm not sure if they have something similar or will have, but I'm sure that they will be watching, what we're doing. So I appreciate those questions, and feel free to ask others. I think with that, we're wrapping up. If you have any, but I'm happy to always have any final comments from speakers that may have one last thing to share. If not, I'll just make a few notes of reminder for you all. The We Are One Somos Uno Resiliency Fund small business continuity grants are still available. You go to the YWCA to apply, and the links are on our website. They're also there for any of the other programs and the nonprofit continuity grant programs as well at connecttucson.com. And I remind businesses, if you're not on Hound yet and you are a retailer in particular, you might find that interesting and another way to reach customers. So you can take a look at the MyHound app and realize that it's no cost for a limited time. So jump in on that. And that is also available for Pima County businesses as well. So that's a good collaboration again. It is time to wrap up. We'll be back for next Monday, when we have a panel for you on September 21st with our friends from the Downtown Tucson Partnership. You're going to hear about more great ways that people have collaborated and overcome some of the issues that they were faced over the last few months. Be sure to register when you see the email in your inbox. And it is our goal to keep you connected as we navigate this pandemic. Don't forget, you can call our City of Tucson Economic Initiative Small Business Hotline at 520-837-4100. You can also check connecttucson.com for resources and make sure you are on our email newsletter list. There you can also subscribe from the website. So with that, thanks to, well, look, I'm going to take a couple more looks here. I see some good information. So in the chat room, the Pima County Brownfields Program is listed there. Thank you, Rolanda. And then we have some thank yous from members. So that's great. It looks like we had another great webinar today. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you all again next Monday at 3 p.m.